Every chapter you hear here is a shortcut to stronger habits, clearer perspective, and unstoppable momentum. This channel, Audiobook Everyday, delivers powerful insights from great minds, condensed into bold, usable guidance you can apply immediately. Stay for the full message, because one idea could change a day, a habit, or a life. If growth matters, hit subscribe and turn notifications on. This is where ideas meet action. New episodes drop regularly to sharpen focus, build discipline, and fuel progress. Welcome to the place that turns listening into becoming. Press play and watch the change begin. Join the journey and transform daily. Chapter 1. Stop chasing approval. Build silent confidence within yourself. Approval feels like a currency that never fills the wallet. That quiet knot in the chest that tightens when a message goes unanswered. The small, practiced posture of smiling to match someone else's expectations. The rehearsal of words before speaking so they land soft and safe. These are daily taxes paid to an invisible authority. Those taxes consume time, attention, and the energy required to build anything of lasting value. The first step toward mastery is clear. Stop trading attention for approval. Replace that spent energy with the single greatest resource for personal transformation: focused, unapologetic self-investment. Begin with a simple truth, drawn from the Stoics: control what can be controlled. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That power is not a slogan, it is a practice. It is discipline applied quietly, day after day, until inner conviction becomes the only applause that matters. The mind will seek validation from the outside, because it lacks anchored purpose on the inside. Purpose is the antidote. Purpose is the light that makes external flattery feel optional rather than essential. Practical step 1. Perform an approval audit. Sit with a pen and paper. Write 5 names, people whose approval drains attention. Beside each name, write what approval from that person buys you: comfort, acceptance, fear avoidance, status. Ask, is that purchase aligned with the life envisioned? If the answer is no, the task is to reroute the energy spent on pleasing toward building competence in one area that matters to the life plan. Competence breeds confidence. Confidence reduces the appetite for applause. A useful law to keep in mind is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. Roughly 20% of interactions and opinions will shape 80% of anxiety about approval. Identify that 20%. Quietly reduce exposure to it. Practically, this looks like limiting certain conversations, muting specific social media channels, or scheduling times to respond instead of reacting. When time is structured, approval-seeking impulses find no convenient window to hijack the day. Practical step 2. Practice a daily solitude ritual. Morning solitude is not indulgence, it is investment. For 15 minutes each morning, sit without devices. Breathe. Write 3 sentences about a goal that matters, and 1 action for today that moves it forward. Notice how the chest loosens when attention starts on purpose rather than on other people's feedback loops. Sensory detail anchors the habit. Feel the coolness of the chair against the spine, the quiet hum of morning, the weight of the pen. These small sensations root the mind in presence, shrinking the loom of external opinions. Practical step 3. Create a public neutral script. Approval seeking often masks itself in politeness. Pre-write short, respectful responses to common social traps that usually trigger people-pleasing. For example, "Thanks for sharing, I have a different plan for that." Or, "Appreciate that perspective, I will consider that and return with my choice." Rehearse the tone: calm, steady, compassionate. These scripts act as muscle memory. When pressure arrives, the voice remains kind, but control is restored. Practical step 4. Cultivate small, visible acts of autonomy. This is exposure therapy for the soul. Start with micro-challenges that create mild social friction and resolve in victory. Examples: order the dish you want instead of what others expect, decline a meeting that is irrelevant, wear an outfit that aligns with personal style rather than group norms. Each completed micro-challenge deposits confidence. Over time, the deposits compound according to a simple law of growth. Small, consistent actions produce powerful outcomes. This is the compounding effect of discipline, less glamorous than dramatic speeches, but far more reliable. Practical step 5. Reframe criticism as information, not identity. Epictetus taught, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When critique arrives, separate the content from the carrier. Ask, "Is there something useful here?" If yes, extract it and improve. If no, dismiss it without drama. Practically, practice a pause before responding to criticism. Inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6, then reply with a single clarifying sentence. This pause prevents the reflex of appeasement and creates space for sovereignty. Practical step 6. Redesign the feedback loop. The human brain craves signals. When the only signals available come from social validation, the nervous system becomes dependent. The solution is to provide alternative, reliable feedback. Build measurable micro-goals and track them visibly. Example: a habit tracker on the wall, a spreadsheet for practice hours, a voice memo at the end of each day, noting 3 wins. External applause cannot be controlled. Progress metrics can. Celebrate metrics, not mentions. Practical step 7. Practice radical ownership through journaling. Use prompts that require specificity. What did I do today that aligned with my highest values? What did I do to avoid discomfort? What is one small boundary I defended? End each entry with a simple next action. The sensory detail of writing, the scratch of pen, transforms abstract intentions into tactile commitments. Ownership dissolves the need for permission, because action replaces petition. Practical step 8. Design social hygiene. Social environments matter. People reflect expectations. Curate relationships with the same intention used for a professional portfolio. Invest time in those who model courage and consistent practice. Reduce time with those who reward passivity or demand constant validation. This is not cruelty, it is stewardship of limited attention. Consider the law of marginal gains. Rearranging small aspects of the social environment yields disproportionate benefit to focus and confidence. Practical step 9. Speak with a lower, steadier voice. Confidence is often physiological. Posture, breathing, and cadence alter perception. The listeners and the speakers. Practice inhaling deeply, opening the chest, and speaking with measured pace. Record a short message and play it back. The brain responds to what it hears and sees. Consistent practice rewires certainty into the body. Over time, inner assurance shows without needing external commentary. Practical step 10. Commit to a 30-day independence experiment. For 30 days, reduce engagement with activities that primarily feed approval. Likes chasing, public oversharing, or people-pleasing obligations. Replace those hours with high-value practice, reading, creative work, meaningful conversations. Keep a log of internal shifts, anxiety levels, clarity, and task completion. At the end of 30 days, analyze change. Data provides proof. When the results show increased productivity and clearer priorities, the need for external validation begins to evaporate. Emotional honesty matters. Detaching from approval can feel lonely at first. The mind will generate narratives, fear of rejection, imagined condemnation. Those are signs that the boundary is working. Courage is not absence of fear. Courage is doing what is right despite it. Visualize fear as a wave hitting the shore. Observe, feel, then allow it to pass. The body remembers that it survived the last wave and learns to stand straighter on the sand. Practical step 11. Use a values check before decisions. Before agreeing to anything that requires time or reputation, ask, does this align with a core value? If the answer is ambiguous, decline. Values reduce cognitive load and restore agency. Write 3 core values on an index card and keep it visible. When social pressure arrives, refer to the card. It serves as a magnet for decisions, pulling attention away from crowd-driven impulses. In the practice of self-mastery, failure is a teacher, not a judge. A day of succumbing to approval-seeking is not a condemnation. It is data. Analyze without self-flagellation. What triggered reactivity? What environmental tweak would reduce that trigger? Replace the shame loop with a troubleshooting routine. This approach aligns with the Stoic discipline of assent. Observe impressions, withhold immediate assent, act from principle. Finish with a ritual that seals practice into identity. Each evening, recite 1 sentence of truth to oneself, spoken aloud. Action defines me more than opinion. The voice may tremble at first. Speak anyway. The repetition is a form of training. Repetition alters the neural pathways and shifts identity from externally authored to self-authored. There will be social cost. Choosing inner authority sometimes means disappointment from others. That is acceptable. The pursuit of a meaningful life requires selective losses, small temporary discomforts for lifelong gains. Growth demands a margin of discomfort. Endurance, not spectacle, produces mastery. This is a discipline of inward focus practiced outwardly. It is quiet, it is stubborn, it is patient. Focus becomes a muscle when exercised, and confidence emerges, not as a mask, but as a refined instrument. The task is steady. Channel attention, prune distractions, and choose actions that stack toward the future. Live in such a way that applause, when it comes, is surplus rather than sustenance. A closing thought from an ancient teacher. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Use that insight as a daily litmus test. When the heart tightens, ask whether the imagined loss of approval is real. Most often it is not. This recognition is liberating. There is freedom in fewer attachments. There is power in the slow accumulation of competence. Act now in a small way. Pick 1 micro-challenge from the list. The solitude ritual, the audit, the 30-day experiment. Practice it with clarity for a week. Observe the shift. Repeat, refine, and continue. The world will not collapse without constant appeasement. The most meaningful collapse that can happen is the collapse of old insecurity. In its place grows a quieter, more formidable presence. The person who focuses on self until winning no longer requires permission from others. Chapter 2. Distractions kill dreams. Discipline creates unstoppable momentum. A dream without discipline is like a ship without a rudder. It may look impressive floating on calm waters, but the first strong current will drag it off course. Distractions are those unseen currents, subtle at first, but powerful enough to delay progress for years. The truth is that most people don't fail because they lack ability, but because they let their attention scatter across meaningless noise. A focused life requires more than inspiration. It requires the discipline to protect every ounce of attention, like it is the most valuable resource you own, because it is. The philosopher Seneca wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Those words carry more weight today than in his own time, because the modern world offers endless ways to waste attention. The constant ping of notifications, the scroll of news that rarely improves life, the endless temptation to compare, to consume, to react. Dreams die quietly in this environment, not because they are impossible, but because they are drowned by noise. The cost of distraction is measured in unfinished projects, broken consistency, and the silent frustration of knowing what could have been achieved if only attention had been guarded more fiercely. The solution is not to eliminate every distraction that is impossible, but to out-discipline them. Discipline is the art of saying no to the unnecessary so that yes can be said to what truly matters. It is not punishment, it is protection. A disciplined person does not live a smaller life, they live a larger one, free from the petty interruptions that steal joy and achievement. One practical way to begin building this protection is through what can be called time block fortresses. Imagine that every day has gates through which intruders can enter. If the gates are open, distractions walk in without resistance. To build fortresses, choose 2 or 3 periods each day and lock them down for focused work on a meaningful goal. These blocks are non-negotiable. They are treated like sacred appointments, protected with the same seriousness one would protect a medical operation or a courtroom appearance. During these times, no messages are answered, no scrolling is allowed, no minor tasks are entertained. Only one priority lives inside the fortress. A real-world example illustrates this power. Consider the story of Cal Newport, a professor and author who built his reputation on deep work. While many colleagues filled their calendars with endless meetings and constant email checks, Newport carved out blocks of uninterrupted focus to write. He published multiple books, advanced in his career, and built a body of work that reached millions. All while working fewer hours than many of his peers. His fortress was not a grand idea. It was simply discipline applied daily to guard his focus. The result was unstoppable momentum. Momentum is the reward discipline gives to those who honor it. At first, the effort feels heavy, like pushing a stalled car uphill. The mind resists. The body wants comfort. Distractions whisper with promises of quick pleasure, but once motion begins, once the wheel of consistent effort starts rolling, momentum takes over. What felt impossible becomes easier. What was resisted becomes routine. Momentum is not magic, it is physics. Each disciplined choice adds weight to the wheel until it spins almost on its own. One practice that strengthens this wheel is the single task challenge. For 1 week, commit to completing tasks only one at a time, without switching. If you write, you only write. If you exercise, you only exercise. If you converse, you only converse. Multitasking is the myth that fuels distraction. Focused singleness, repeated daily, rewires the brain to crave depth over shallow hopping. At first, it feels uncomfortable, but discomfort is a sign of growth. By the end of the week, many are shocked at how much they complete and how much calmer they feel. Consider the story of an athlete preparing for the Olympics. The difference between good and great was not just talent, it was the capacity to live in discipline when distractions tempted every corner. Friends went out at night, the athlete went to bed early, social media buzzed with endless chatter. The athlete kept the phone on airplane mode during training. Over time, these small acts of discipline compounded into physical mastery. The medal was not won on the day of the competition, it was won months earlier, in quiet mornings, where discipline refused to yield to distraction. The same principle applies outside athletics. A student who wants to master a subject must close the door on endless entertainment. An entrepreneur who wants to build a thriving business must say no to leisure when critical work calls. A parent who wants to raise disciplined children must model that discipline by prioritizing presence over constant digital distraction. Each choice either feeds a dream or feeds a distraction. The law is simple, both cannot be fed equally. Another method to conquer distraction is the practice of environmental design. Willpower is finite, but environments are powerful. If the phone is in reach, temptation is in reach. If junk food sits on the desk, discipline weakens. Rearranging environments is not about weakness, it is about wisdom. Remove apps from the home screen. Place the phone in another room during deep work. Create a physical space for focus, free of clutter, with objects that signal seriousness. Books, notebooks, a clear desk. This design reduces the friction of discipline and makes focus the path of least resistance. The emotional reward of living this way is profound. Where distraction breeds anxiety and guilt, discipline breeds calm and pride. There is a unique confidence that comes from knowing you honored your own commitments despite temptation. That confidence radiates into every other area of life: relationships, health, even rest. Rest feels different when it is earned through focused labor rather than stolen through procrastination. The momentum created by discipline builds identity. Each time distraction is defeated, the self-image shifts. No longer does the person see themselves as easily swayed or weak-willed. Instead, they begin to see themselves as reliable, consistent, trustworthy in their own eyes. That identity is the foundation for greatness, because success is not built on single bursts of effort, but on the daily identity of a disciplined person. The practice of discipline does not remove joy, it enhances it. Distraction offers fleeting entertainment, but leaves a hollow aftertaste. Discipline may deny quick pleasures, but it delivers achievements that can be savored for a lifetime. A finished book, a stronger body, a thriving business, a deep relationship, these are fruits grown in the soil of discipline, watered daily by attention protected from distraction. To those who feel overwhelmed by how far they have drifted into distraction, remember this: change does not require perfection, it requires one disciplined step today. Shut down one distraction, protect one block of focus, complete one task fully. That single act begins the return of momentum. Tomorrow, add another. Over weeks, the wheel of momentum will turn again. The Roman general Julius Caesar once said, "It is easier to find men who will volunteer to die than to find those who are willing to endure pain with patience." Distraction tempts with ease, discipline demands patience, but endurance through patience is how dreams survive and thrive. The man or woman who masters their attention masters their future. Every dream you hold in your mind right now, whether it is to change your health, build wealth, strengthen relationships, or leave a mark on the world, depends not on inspiration, but on disciplined action. Protect your time, guard your focus, build fortresses around your priorities. Choose momentum over delay. Because when discipline becomes the rhythm of your life, distraction loses its power, and dreams move from imagination into reality with unstoppable force. Chapter 3. Why focusing on others delays your own breakthrough. The fastest way to lose yourself is to spend all your energy staring at someone else's path. The more attention you give to their progress, their recognition, their lifestyle, the less energy remains to build your own foundation. People rarely fail because they have no talent. They fail because they dilute their focus by constantly measuring themselves against others. A life devoted to comparison is like running a race with your head turned sideways. You trip, stumble, and never reach the finish line. Breakthroughs come when your gaze finally turns inward, when you stop chasing another person's pace and start mastering your own stride. Philosopher Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." His words strike deep because comparison is rooted in fear of appearing behind. The desire to look as polished as others keeps you stuck polishing instead of progressing. The irony is that by obsessing over their appearance, you delay your own growth. While you watch, they build. While you hesitate, they act. The breakthrough you crave is not delayed by circumstances. It is delayed by your fixation on someone else's timeline. Think of the archer. If an archer spends all day watching how another draws the bow, how another positions the feet, how another aims, the archer never releases his own arrow. His quiver stays full, but his targets remain untouched. Life works the same way. Your skills sharpen only when you take shots, not when you watch someone else shoot. A practical exercise that shifts this mindset is what can be called focus inversion. Each time the mind drifts into comparison, ask one question: what am I neglecting in myself right now? Write down the answer. If you're scrolling through someone's career achievements, what neglected project of your own sits unfinished? If you're analyzing someone's body, what workout or meal plan did you abandon? If you're envying another's confidence, what small risk did you avoid today? Redirect energy from observation into action. The more times you invert focus, the more your own life gains momentum. A powerful real-world example comes from J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, Rowling was a single mother living on welfare. She could have drowned in comparisons with writers already successful, envying their recognition and resources. Instead, she focused fiercely on her own story. Page after page, in cafes and on trains, she built a world no one else could write. If she had wasted that time comparing herself to authors who had already made it, the story millions love today might never have existed. Her breakthrough arrived because she chose creation over comparison. Comparison has another hidden cost. It blinds you to your uniqueness. By staring at others, you unconsciously start copying them. Soon your voice, your ideas, your choices blur into replicas. But the market of life does not reward replicas, it rewards originals. A copy can never outshine its source. The paradox is that what you envy in others is their authenticity, yet by imitating them, you lose your own. Breakthroughs belong to the original, not the duplicate. A daily practice that strengthens authenticity is the personal inventory ritual. Each morning, list 3 qualities that make you distinct. They may be skills, perspectives, or even struggles that have shaped your resilience. Then identify one way to express one of those qualities that day. This practice prevents the mind from drowning in someone else's shadow because it anchors attention to personal strengths. Over weeks, confidence grows as you see how much value lies in what only you can bring. One story from history demonstrates this truth vividly. Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest inventors, often struggled financially because he focused so much on creation rather than competition. Yet, despite being overshadowed by contemporaries like Thomas Edison, Tesla remained committed to his vision. While Edison chased recognition and public approval, Tesla's breakthroughs in alternating current and wireless technology changed the world. His work proved that focusing on the unique contribution within oneself can eventually reshape entire industries, even if recognition comes late. The emotional trap of focusing on others is subtle. It begins as admiration, then slowly shifts into jealousy, then finally calcifies into paralysis. The cure is consistent, disciplined self-investment. The mind cannot be emptied of focus. It can only be redirected, so redirect it toward creation, progress, and mastery of your own craft. Even 5 minutes a day spent building your vision is worth more than hours spent envying someone else's. Another practice that strengthens self-focus is the one-brick method. Imagine your life as a wall. Each day you can lay one brick by completing a meaningful action, a workout, a study session, a business step, a conversation with depth. The mistake most people make is staring at someone else's finished wall and feeling small. But what matters is not their wall, it's your brick today. If you lay one brick every day with care, one day you will look back and see your own wall standing tall. A relatable modern example is seen in fitness journeys. Someone who compares their body constantly with influencers online often gives up before results come. But someone who focuses only on consistent daily actions, one workout, one healthy meal, eventually transforms in ways that shock others. The difference is not talent, but focus. The influencer's body may inspire, but the discipline of laying one brick daily creates transformation. There's also a law at work here, the law of opportunity cost. Every minute spent obsessing over another person's path is a minute stolen from your own. If you spend an hour comparing, that's an hour not practicing, not creating, not learning. Multiply that by weeks and years, and the cost is staggering. The law cannot be escaped. You either invest energy in yourself or pay the price of delay. Breakthroughs demand full attention. They are fragile in the early stages, easily suffocated by distraction. Focusing on others is one of the most dangerous distractions because it feels harmless. After all, what's wrong with admiring someone? But admiration turns toxic when it becomes obsession. The line is crossed the moment admiration makes you hesitate on your own actions. The discipline is to admire briefly, then return fully to your own work. The joy of shifting focus inward is liberation. Suddenly, you no longer feel rushed by someone else's timeline. You no longer panic when someone else achieves faster. You realize the race is not against them. It is against your own potential. The calm that comes from this realization is powerful. It allows you to work with patience, persistence, and passion without the heavy burden of comparison. The day you decide to stop staring at others and start building your own lane is the day progress accelerates. Your life moves forward, not in leaps, but in consistent steps, each one unhindered by the weight of envy. The very energy that once fed insecurity now feeds growth. The shift is subtle but life-changing. Attention, once scattered outward, now fuels inward mastery. So here is the challenge. For 1 week, track how often your mind drifts to others. Each time it does, pause and immediately take one small action toward your own breakthrough. Write a page, make a sales call, train your body, study a skill, use others only as reminders to return to yourself. By the end of the week, you will notice something powerful. The grip of comparison weakens, and your own momentum strengthens. The wisdom of the ages confirms it. Breakthroughs do not come from staring across fences. They come from tending your own soil, watering your own garden, building your own house brick by brick. The world does not need another copy of someone else's success. It needs the full version of your own. And when you finally give it, when you focus relentlessly on your own growth, your breakthrough will not only arrive, it will shine brighter than you imagined, because it will be yours alone. Chapter 4. Master small daily wins to conquer impossible big goals. Big goals often look like mountains towering over your life, casting a shadow so large that the first step feels meaningless. The mistake most people make is believing they must leap to the summit in one dramatic motion. That illusion destroys motivation. In truth, every mountain is climbed the same way, one deliberate step after another. Mastering small daily wins is how impossible goals become possible. Each victory, no matter how small, rewires your mind to believe progress is not only possible but inevitable. There is an ancient wisdom that says, "The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones." That proverb is not poetic metaphor, it is a law of human achievement. The brain builds confidence not from dreams, but from completed actions. Each small win becomes a stone laid in the path to something larger. Skip the small stones, and the path never forms. Collect them daily, and eventually even the most intimidating peak becomes a conquered path. Consider the person who dreams of writing a book. The idea of 300 pages intimidates so much that the project stalls. But what if the goal shifts to 1 page a day? In a year, the book is finished. That single page, repeated consistently, destroys the myth of impossibility. The real enemy is not the size of the goal. It is the inability to value the power of small wins. A practical way to harness this principle is through what can be called the micro-victory method. Each morning, identify one action that takes less than 20 minutes, but moves you closer to your larger vision. Complete it before distractions invade. These wins become anchors that stabilize momentum. They also carry psychological weight. The human mind loves evidence, and a completed task is evidence that you are capable. Over time, the evidence stacks so high that self-doubt has no room to breathe. A powerful real-world example is seen in the story of James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. He didn't transform his life by setting colossal goals. He transformed by obsessing over small daily improvements. Writing articles, studying behavior, refining his craft, step by step, eventually led to one of the most influential books of modern times. His story proves that small wins compound into big victories, much like pennies accumulating into a fortune. Momentum is built through the physics of discipline. Imagine pushing a heavy wheel. The first push feels immovable, the second slightly easier, and eventually the wheel rolls with less effort. Small daily wins are those pushes. At first, progress feels invisible, but persistence builds rhythm, and rhythm becomes momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that carries you when motivation fades. That is why those who commit to small wins daily often appear unstoppable. They are riding momentum that started with something as unremarkable as 5 minutes of consistent action. One practice to anchor this into daily life is the 2-minute gateway. If a task feels too heavy, commit only to doing it for 2 minutes. 2 minutes of reading, 2 minutes of stretching, 2 minutes of writing. Often those 2 minutes break resistance, and the action continues far beyond the starting point. Even if it doesn't, you have still laid another brick. The consistency matters more than the size of the effort. Consider the transformation of a man who wanted to change his health. Overweight and discouraged, he promised himself not an entire overhaul but a single daily walk. That walk turned into longer walks, then into jogging, then into full training sessions. A year later, the man had lost over 100 pounds. He didn't conquer the impossible by attacking it directly. He conquered it by stacking small wins until the impossible dissolved into inevitable progress. The beauty of daily wins is how they shape identity. Every completed action whispers a new message. I am someone who follows through. Identity is not built in one bold declaration, but in repeated proof. 1,000 small victories create a person who trusts themselves. Once trust is established, larger goals stop feeling like distant dreams and start feeling like natural extensions of who you already are. There is also a neurological advantage. Each small win triggers dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. This is not just pleasure, it is motivation. By deliberately creating small wins, you design a feedback loop where progress feels rewarding, encouraging you to continue. Over time, the brain associates effort with satisfaction, making discipline easier. But what happens when the small wins feel insignificant? This is where perspective matters. Imagine planting a seed. For weeks, nothing visible happens, but roots are spreading underground. Every small action is a root. Invisible at first, but eventually strong enough to support visible growth. Dismissing small wins because they don't look impressive is like uprooting the seed before it sprouts. Patience is the companion of small victories. Another way to keep small wins powerful is through visible tracking. Create a simple chart, journal, or calendar where each day's completed action is marked. Over time, the visual evidence of consistency becomes a source of pride. Missing a day feels like breaking a chain you've worked hard to build. This technique turns discipline into a game the mind wants to win. A modern example can be found in language learning. Many people dream of becoming fluent, but give up quickly when fluency feels distant. Those who succeed often commit to just 10 minutes a day. Apps, flashcards, or simple practice sessions may seem insignificant daily, but over months they build vocabulary, listening skills, and confidence. Eventually, the learner who focused on daily wins speaks fluently while others are still waiting for motivation to start. The philosophy of small wins also protects against burnout. Big goals tempt people to overexert, sprinting early with unsustainable energy. Small, consistent steps prevent exhaustion by pacing progress. They create a balance between ambition and endurance. The result is not only achievement, but longevity. You don't just reach a goal, you sustain the habits that keep it alive. This truth applies to wealth, health, relationships, and creativity alike. A dollar saved daily compounds into financial security. A daily expression of gratitude strengthens relationships over years. A single drawing or practice session nurtures creative mastery. The impossible dissolves when the small becomes sacred. For those who doubt this method, reflect on history's greatest achievements. Cathedrals took generations to build, stone by stone. Civilizations rose from consistent agricultural practices, seed by seed. Even the human body itself develops cell by cell. Nature itself testifies. Greatness is not sudden, it is cumulative. So here is the challenge. Design one non-negotiable daily win that aligns with your biggest vision. Keep it so simple that excuses cannot destroy it. Guard it fiercely for 30 days. At the end of those days, reflect on the difference. You will see not just external progress, but a shift in identity, confidence, and energy. The lesson is clear. Impossible goals are illusions created by the mind. Break them down into daily wins, and they become sequences of possible steps. Each step compounds, each small act stacks, until the mountain no longer looks like an enemy, but like a conquered path. The discipline to honor small wins is the discipline to change your life. The dream is not as far as it seems. The mountain shrinks with every step, and the summit belongs to those who move one stone at a time. Chapter 5. The Power of Saying No Without Feeling Guilty. The most powerful word in the language of success is not yes. It is no. Yes feels comfortable, it keeps the peace, and it avoids conflict. But every unnecessary yes is a silent theft from your own priorities. Every time you agree to something you don't believe in, you abandon something that matters deeply to you. This is why the art of saying no firmly and guilt-free is the hidden foundation of freedom, progress, and personal strength. From childhood, many are conditioned to equate no with rejection, selfishness, or rudeness. The truth is the opposite. Saying no with clarity is one of the highest forms of respect for yourself and even for others. When you give a false yes, you deceive both parties. You commit to something half-heartedly, wasting their time and draining your energy. A clean no is far more honorable than a reluctant yes. Think of time as the most limited currency you own. Money lost can be earned again. Time spent cannot return. If you allow every demand, every request, every distraction to consume your hours, you will look back and realize you lived a life authored by other people. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not that we are given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it." Every yes given out of guilt shortens your life, not in years, but in fulfillment. There is a law that governs this, the law of opportunity cost. For every yes you give, you are saying no to something else. If you agree to stay late at work when you don't need to, you say no to time with your family. If you say yes to helping a friend with a task you resent, you say no to the project that could shape your future. The exchange is constant, and most people do not realize how expensive their yes has become. One practice to build strength in this area is the delayed response method. Instead of giving immediate answers to requests, train yourself to say, "I will get back to you." This pause creates space. In that space, you can ask, does this align with my goals? Do I have the energy for this? Am I saying yes out of fear or from conviction? By delaying the response, you reclaim authority over your decisions. Eventually, you will notice how many things no longer deserve your yes. A real-world example can be seen in the life of Warren Buffett. He once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." Buffett's calendar is almost empty, not because he is lazy, but because he is ruthless with his attention. By saying no to nearly every opportunity, he says yes only to what compounds his vision. This discipline has made him one of the most effective investors in history. The guilt that comes with saying no is an illusion created by conditioning. Guilt whispers that you will disappoint, that people will think less of you. But notice what actually happens. People may be surprised at first, but most will respect a clear boundary. Those who do not respect it are often those who benefited most from your lack of boundaries. Their discomfort is not your burden to carry. Another practical method is creating default boundaries. These are pre-decided rules that make no automatic. For example, you might set a rule: no social events during weekdays, no answering work messages after 8 p.m., no commitments longer than an hour without purpose. When someone asks, you don't debate, you simply follow your default. This reduces emotional stress and prevents guilt from manipulating your answer. Imagine an artist working on a masterpiece. Friends constantly invite them to outings. Family asks for small favors. Colleagues demand collaboration. If the artist says yes to everything, the canvas remains empty. By saying no, the artist protects the sacred time required for creation. Years later, when the masterpiece is revealed, the same people who once wanted endless yes are the ones who admire the result of those disciplined no's. The very act of protecting space through refusal is what gives birth to greatness. One story that demonstrates this clearly is that of Steve Jobs. Known for his relentless focus, Jobs would cut entire product lines, say no to promising ideas, and even turn down lucrative opportunities. His philosophy was simple: focus is about saying no. By stripping away the unnecessary, he channeled his energy into creating products that reshaped industries. The iPhone exists because of thousands of no's to distractions. For ordinary people, the stakes are just as real. The teacher who says no to extra duties can spend that time mentoring students more deeply. The entrepreneur who says no to unaligned projects can channel energy into the venture that truly matters. The parent who says no to endless obligations can say yes to presence with their children. Every no is not the end of something, it is the beginning of something else. To strengthen the ability further, practice the mirror test. After each yes, look in the mirror and ask, did I betray myself just now? If the answer is yes, take note. Over time, this practice rewires the mind to value integrity over approval. The goal is to reach a place where the mirror reflects a person who chooses with clarity, not with guilt. The emotional freedom that follows is life-changing. You begin to notice how much lighter you feel when you stop carrying obligations you never wanted. Creativity flows again because your mind is not cluttered with resentment. Relationships improve because the yes you give are genuine, not grudging. Most importantly, self-respect grows. You trust yourself to protect your priorities, and that trust becomes the foundation of confidence. The deeper truth is this: every great achievement is built on the courage to say no. Great athletes say no to comfort. Great thinkers say no to distraction. Great leaders say no to the easy path. Saying no is not selfish, it is sacred. It honors the path that only you can walk. So here is a challenge. For the next 7 days, track every yes you give. At the end of each day, write down whether each yes moved you closer to your goals or pulled you away. You will be shocked by how many small, automatic yes responses drain your energy. Then practice replacing just one of those yeses with a firm, guilt-free no. Notice the freedom it creates. That small shift, repeat daily, rewires your life. A single no, spoken with courage, can open space for 1,000 possibilities. When you choose wisely, when you protect your energy without guilt, you stop being a servant to everyone else's agenda and become the author of your own. The power of no is not in rejection, it is in liberation. The more you practice it, the more you will see that saying no is not the end of kindness. It is the beginning of strength. Chapter 6. Transform pain into fuel that pushes you forward. Pain is a language that life uses to awaken the parts of us that comfort has left asleep. Every person walking this earth carries wounds, whether from failure, rejection, loss, or betrayal. Yet, while most people treat pain as an enemy to be avoided, the truth is that pain is a silent teacher and an unrelenting source of strength, if you know how to use it. Those who collapse under suffering are not weaker than others. They simply haven't been taught how to turn their pain into fuel that drives them forward, instead of chains that hold them back. When the body is placed under pressure in the gym, muscles tear slightly. That microscopic damage feels uncomfortable, but in the process of repair, the muscle grows stronger. The same principle applies to the heart and mind. When life tears at you through disappointment, through heartbreak, through failure, it provides an opening for resilience to grow. The key is to shift from asking, "Why did this happen to me?" to "How can I use this to rise?" That single shift transforms pain from an anchor into a ladder. History is filled with people who turned agony into energy. Think of Nelson Mandela. He endured 27 years in prison, stripped of freedom, stripped of dignity. Many would have left that experience bitter and broken. Instead, Mandela came out with a deeper clarity, fueled by the very suffering meant to destroy him, and changed the course of a nation. His pain became a forge that built unshakable character. For a real-world, everyday example, imagine someone who loses their job unexpectedly. At first, the blow feels crushing. Fear sets in, doubt whispers, but if they decide to reframe the pain, the setback becomes a spark. They may start a business they had long postponed, or acquire skills they never thought they had time to learn. What once looked like devastation transforms into a doorway that would never have opened without the discomfort. Pain pushed them into purpose. One practice that builds this muscle is pain journaling. When struck by hardship, instead of drowning in it silently, sit with a pen and write 3 questions. What am I feeling? What is this pain teaching me? How can I use this lesson to move forward? This process turns chaos into clarity. It stops pain from circling endlessly in the mind and forces it onto paper, where it can be studied and shaped into meaning. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men." Pain is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that you are being tested for strength, and every test passed expands the capacity of your soul. The scars you carry are not shameful. They are evidence of survival, proof that you endured what others thought would break you. If you carry them with pride, those scars can become a map guiding others who face similar storms. Discomfort sharpens focus in a way that comfort never will. Consider the athlete recovering from an injury. The pain of sitting on the sidelines often ignites a deeper hunger to return stronger than before. Michael Jordan was famously cut from his high school basketball team. The humiliation burned him, but instead of giving up, he used that sting as fuel for relentless practice. That wound became the spark behind one of the greatest careers in sports history. Pain also strips away illusions. When everything is going well, people often tolerate mediocrity. They coast, unaware that their potential is asleep. But when hardship strikes, when everything crumbles, illusions burn away. What remains is what truly matters. A breakup, for instance, can feel like devastation, but often it clears the space for someone to find themselves again, to rediscover forgotten strengths, and to build a life anchored in self-respect. What feels like the end is often a brutal beginning. To apply this principle, take one of your hardest memories, the kind that still brings discomfort when you think about it. Instead of running from it, ask, what skill, perspective, or strength did that pain give me that I would not have today without it? Maybe betrayal taught you to see character clearly. Maybe loss taught you to cherish every moment with those still here. Maybe failure taught you resilience. That answer is the gift hidden inside the wound. It is important to understand that transforming pain into fuel does not mean denying the hurt or pretending it doesn't exist. It means facing it honestly, feeling it fully, and then deciding to make it useful. The person who bottles pain becomes bitter. The person who acknowledges pain and redirects it becomes powerful. You cannot control whether pain enters your life, but you can control whether it poisons you or propels you. A person training for a marathon knows that discomfort is guaranteed. Instead of dreading it, they expect it and prepare for it. In the same way, if you live expecting life to be easy, you will be crushed when hardship arrives. But if you accept that pain is a part of growth, every challenge becomes an expected part of the journey rather than a surprise setback. One story often overlooked is that of J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she was a struggling single mother, living on welfare, rejected by multiple publishers. The rejection letters could have killed her dream. Instead, the sting of those failures became her fuel to keep writing, to sharpen her story, and to fight harder for her vision. Today, her books have reached hundreds of millions. Pain was her greatest editor. To practice transforming pain, adopt the principle of productive suffering. The next time life delivers difficulty, whether it is a harsh word, a failed attempt, or a disappointment, channel the emotional charge into action immediately. Go for a run, work on your craft, write your ideas down, or build something small that aligns with your goals. Instead of letting the energy of pain spiral inward, redirect it outward into momentum. Over time, you will train your brain to associate suffering with productivity rather than paralysis. The most liberating realization is that pain is unavoidable, but wasted pain is optional. You cannot avoid every heartbreak, every loss, every disappointment. But you can decide whether that pain will rot you from the inside or refine you into someone unrecognizable in strength and resilience. The weight you carry can either break your back or build your muscles. The choice belongs to you. Every storm you survive leaves behind a hidden gift: wisdom, empathy, strength, or clarity. When you stop running from pain and begin using it as fuel, you discover a truth that few ever grasp. Pain is not punishment. It is preparation, and once you learn how to burn it into energy, you become unstoppable, because nothing life throws at you can go to waste. Chapter 7. Your energy is currency. Spend it on growth. Every day you wake up with a limited amount of energy. It may not look like a wallet filled with bills, but in truth, your attention, focus, and vitality are a form of currency. Where you spend it determines what kind of return you get at the end of the day. The challenge most people face is that they treat energy as if it is endless, scattering it across gossip, negativity, endless scrolling, and commitments that drain instead of build. By the evening they feel bankrupt, not because life is cruel, but because they invested their energy into things that yield no growth. Think of a business person who manages money carelessly, buying things that depreciate and ignoring investments that multiply. In no time they are broke. Energy works in the same way. If you pour it into arguments, distractions, and worries, you gain nothing in return. But if you spend it on learning, building, exercising, creating and nurturing relationships that matter, the energy comes back multiplied in the form of strength, wisdom, and progress. The philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, "The world belongs to the energetic." That truth has not changed. Energy wisely invested creates power. Every interaction in your day either deposits into your growth account or withdraws from it. For example, giving 30 minutes to mindless complaining drains far more than 30 minutes of physical work. Why? Because negative energy compounds, pulling your mood, productivity, and motivation down with it. On the other hand, 30 minutes of reading a good book or practicing a skill not only takes little energy, but returns far more than it costs. The principle is simple: spend energy where it multiplies, not where it evaporates. One real-life example is an entrepreneur who wakes up each morning and chooses the first hours of the day for deep work. Instead of checking messages or reacting to others' demands, they invest their best energy into their most important project. Over weeks and months, those concentrated hours produce results that astonish everyone around them. The difference isn't that they had more time, it's that they allocated their currency of energy with precision. There is a practice you can adopt called the energy audit. For 1 week, write down every activity you engage in and rate whether it leaves you energized, drained, or neutral. At the end of the week, calculate how much of your energy was invested into growth and how much was wasted. The results will shock you. Most people discover that they spend more energy reacting to trivialities than acting on what builds their future. Awareness is the first step toward discipline. It is also important to understand that people themselves can be investments or debts. Some individuals amplify your energy. They encourage, challenge, and inspire you. Others quietly drain it, leaving you exhausted even after short conversations. Just as you would not hand your money to someone who squanders it, stop giving your energy to those who constantly consume it without adding value. Protecting your energy is not cruelty, it is stewardship. Consider the athlete training for a championship. They know that energy spent staying out late, eating poorly, or surrounding themselves with distractions will cost them their edge. So they budget energy like gold, prioritizing rest, training, nutrition, and focus. Their victories are not only the result of physical talent, but of disciplined allocation of energy. The same principle applies outside of sports. Success in any field belongs to those who know how to guard their energy from waste and pour it into growth. Many people think growth demands enormous effort, but the truth is, growth demands consistent energy applied in the right places. 10 minutes of mindful meditation can recharge a tired mind more effectively than 2 hours of anxious overthinking. A half hour spent writing every day builds a book over time. while a half hour spent lost in distraction leaves nothing behind. Small, consistent investments of energy compound into results that seem impossible to those who scatter their vitality aimlessly. There is also the trap of emotional energy. Anger, resentment, and jealousy consume energy at a frightening rate. Imagine holding a grudge. It burns inside, replaying scenarios, draining your mental power while achieving nothing. That same energy, if redirected, could be used to exercise, learn, or create something meaningful. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that it is not what happens that drains you, but how you respond. Choosing to let go of what you cannot control is one of the greatest ways to conserve energy for what truly matters. To live wisely, think of yourself as both a spender and an investor of energy. Before giving your attention to anything, ask, does this grow me, or does this shrink me? If the answer is shrink, the cost is too high. If the answer is grow, pay gladly. Over time, this habit creates exponential progress. You will look back and realize you built skills, relationships, and resilience, not by accident, but by careful management of your most valuable currency. A story that illustrates this well is that of Thomas Edison. Known for his relentless experiments, he poured his energy daily into the pursuit of invention. Thousands of failed attempts at creating the light bulb did not exhaust him because he saw each attempt as a worthwhile investment. "I have not failed," he said. "I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His energy was directed toward progress, not frustration. That discipline is what eventually lit up the world. To apply this idea in your own life, start tomorrow by identifying your highest value task, the one action that, if completed, moves you meaningfully closer to your goals. Reserve your freshest energy for it. That means doing it before you give your attention to distractions, before fatigue steals your focus. This simple shift ensures that no matter what happens during the day, your energy has already been spent on growth. Growth does not demand perfection, but it does demand intentional spending. Every yes to growth is a no to waste. Every choice to direct energy toward improvement, no matter how small, is a deposit in the account of your future. Day by day, these deposits accumulate until one morning you wake up with wealth, not just of money or possessions, but of character, skill, and purpose. Energy is invisible, but its effects are not. Look at your life right now, and you will see a reflection of where your energy has been spent over the last months and years. If the results don't satisfy you, it is not too late to change the spending habits. Begin treating energy as a sacred currency, and watch as your growth accelerates beyond what you thought possible. Because in the end, the world does not reward those who spend recklessly. It rewards those who invest wisely. Chapter 8. Silence, solitude, stillness, the secret weapons of winners. In a world that glorifies constant motion, endless noise, and non-stop connection, silence and solitude have become rare treasures. Yet the people who achieve the most profound success, whether in art, leadership, or personal mastery, often credit their greatest breakthroughs not to chaos, but to stillness. Noise distracts, but silence sharpens. Crowds can inspire, but solitude reveals truth. Stillness is not the absence of progress. It is the soil from which progress grows. Winners do not fear being alone with themselves. They seek it because in those quiet spaces they find answers that the world could never provide. Modern life pushes the belief that busyness equals productivity. Phones buzz, notifications scream, conversations overlap, and schedules fill. But productivity without clarity is a trap. You can run faster than ever and still be running in circles. Silence allows the mind to reset, to separate what is urgent from what is important. Without it, you risk living reactively, always pulled by other people's demands, never led by your own vision. Stillness is what allows you to hear the faint voice of your inner compass, the voice drowned out by the noise of the world. A simple truth emerges: silence heals, solitude strengthens, and stillness transforms. In silence, your thoughts become clear. In solitude, your identity solidifies. In stillness, your energy gathers power. This is why philosophers, sages, and leaders throughout history carved out time away from crowds. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man of his era, wrote in his journals during quiet moments, reflecting on discipline, mortality, and virtue. He understood that ruling others is meaningless if you cannot first rule yourself, and ruling yourself requires solitude. One real-life example is that of Nikola Tesla. While Edison surrounded himself with noise, busyness, and endless collaboration, Tesla often withdrew into solitude, walking alone, letting his mind wander. It was in these solitary states that his most groundbreaking ideas emerged. His ability to harness silence gave him visions of technology that were decades ahead of his time. His stillness was not laziness, it was fertile ground for genius. You can practice this in your own life through what is called intentional solitude. Choose a period each day, even if only 15 minutes, where you disconnect from every device and remove yourself from others. Sit in silence, breathe deeply, and observe your thoughts without judgment. At first, discomfort will rise because the modern mind craves distraction, but gradually clarity emerges. You begin to hear solutions to problems that seemed impossible, ideas that were hidden under the noise, and insights about yourself that daily chaos had buried. Stillness is also a weapon in moments of conflict. When provoked, most people react impulsively, throwing energy into arguments that weaken them. But stillness allows you to pause, to observe, to choose a measured response rather than a reckless reaction. This ability to remain composed when others lose control is what separates leaders from followers. The person who masters stillness can walk through storms untouched, because they are not ruled by emotion, but by wisdom. Consider the story of Abraham Lincoln. During his presidency, he faced criticism, betrayal, and unimaginable pressure. Rather than rushing to respond, he often retreated into quiet reflection, sometimes drafting letters of anger that he never sent. That pause, that solitude, allowed him to lead with clarity instead of impulse. His stillness became one of his greatest strengths, allowing him to guide a divided nation through its darkest hour. The modern danger is mistaking solitude for loneliness. Loneliness is emptiness, but solitude is fullness. Loneliness drains you because it feels imposed. Solitude fills you because it is chosen. The difference lies in perspective. When you choose solitude, you realize it is a place to recharge, to grow, to reconnect with your truest self. Winners embrace solitude, not because they dislike others, but because they know that to give their best to the world, they must first build strength in private. Noise also weakens creativity. A mind bombarded by information cannot generate original thought. It can only recycle what it absorbs. Stillness, on the other hand, clears mental clutter, creating space for innovation. Writers, musicians, and inventors throughout history have spoken of receiving their greatest ideas in silence. Beethoven would often take long, solitary walks, letting melodies rise in his mind. Those timeless symphonies were born not from constant chatter, but from stillness deep enough to hear the music within. Another practical method is practicing digital silence. Dedicate specific hours of the day when devices are off. Use that time not to work harder, but to think deeper. Ask yourself questions that matter. Am I living according to my values? What is distracting me from my highest priorities? What would my life look like if I removed everything non-essential? In the quiet, answers appear that no search engine can provide. Stillness also carries a spiritual dimension. Great traditions across the world emphasize meditation, prayer, or reflection, not as escapes, but as disciplines that align the human soul with truth. In stillness, you recognize how fleeting daily worries are, how small distractions look against the backdrop of eternity. This perspective gives winners patience, resilience, and humility, because they no longer live as slaves to temporary noise. The story of Mahatma Gandhi illustrates this beautifully. Gandhi would regularly withdraw into silence, sometimes refusing to speak for days. These moments were not weakness, but renewal. In silence, he gathered the strength to lead a movement that demanded extraordinary courage. His quiet time became the foundation of his public power. The world remembers his speeches, but it was his silence that gave those words weight. If you feel overwhelmed by the speed of life, the solution is not always to run faster. Sometimes the answer is to stop, to be still, and to listen. The pause may feel unproductive, but it is in the pause that clarity sharpens, energy renews, and vision strengthens. The archer pulls back the bowstring into stillness before releasing an arrow at lightning speed. Without the stillness, there is no precision, no power, no target reached. So here is a practice. Once a week, create what you might call a silence appointment. Block out 1 hour. No phone, no television, no company. Use that hour to sit, walk, or reflect quietly. At first, your mind will resist. It will crave stimulation. But if you persist, you will discover a strange phenomenon. New ideas will surface, your stress will decrease, and your sense of direction will sharpen. That hour will soon become more valuable than entire days of busy activity. Winners know that silence, solitude, and stillness are not luxuries, they are necessities. They are the weapons that allow you to see clearly, act decisively, and endure powerfully. When the world is loud, choose silence. When the crowd is pulling, choose solitude. When chaos is pressing, choose stillness. These choices may feel small, but they create the unshakable foundation from which true greatness is built. And when you master them, you will find that the very moments others run from are the moments that will carry you furthest. Chapter 9. Replace comparison with creation and watch life change. One of the fastest ways to drain your energy and sabotage your potential is falling into the trap of comparison. The world has never been louder, with images of what everyone else is doing, achieving, and showing off. Scroll through social media for 5 minutes, and you'll see someone with more money, a fitter body, a bigger house, or more followers. And in that moment, you stop appreciating your own path. You begin measuring your life with someone else's ruler. But here's the hard truth. Comparison blinds you to your own strengths, while creation wakes them up. Every second you spend looking sideways at someone else's lane is a second you're not building your own. The most successful people didn't get where they are by being the best at copying others. They got there by creating something new, something unique, something that reflected their inner vision rather than external validation. When you compare, you become reactive, always adjusting yourself to match another person's highlight reel. But when you create, you shift into power. You stop reacting to life and start shaping it. Think about it. Nobody remembers the person who imitated, but history remembers the creators. Steve Jobs didn't look at other companies and try to keep up with them. He focused on creating something the world didn't even know it needed. Instead of wasting his time measuring himself against competitors, he poured his energy into innovation. The result: he built products that changed entire industries and rewrote the way people live and work. That is the difference between comparison and creation. Comparison chains you, creation frees you. Here's the danger most people don't realize. Comparison makes you bitter instead of better. It makes you see life as a competition for limited resources, when in truth, creativity proves there is no limit. Every time you create something, whether it's a business, a piece of art, a skill, or even a better version of yourself. You add to the world instead of subtracting from it. Comparison shrinks your possibilities, creation expands them. A powerful real-life example comes from J.K. Rowling. Before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon, she was living in poverty, struggling as a single mother. She could have compared herself to other successful writers, seen how far behind she was, and given up. But instead, she focused on creating the story that was in her heart. She didn't care if others were already writing fantasy novels. She poured her soul into her own vision. That act of creation, born in solitude and fueled by imagination, became one of the most successful book series of all time. When you replace comparison with creation, you start noticing a shift in your mindset. Instead of asking, "Why don't I have what they have?" you start asking, "What can I build with what I've been given?" That change alone can transform your life, because the truth is, life rewards builders, not imitators. The energy you waste comparing could be invested into sharpening your craft, testing your ideas, and putting something original into the world. Here's a practice you can start today. Every time you feel envy or insecurity creeping in after seeing someone else's success, don't let it spiral into self-doubt. Instead, use that moment as fuel. Sit down and create something of your own immediately. Write a page in your journal, sketch a design, brainstorm a business idea, record a short video, or practice a skill. Turn the comparison trigger into a creation trigger. Over time, your brain will stop associating other people's success with inadequacy and instead associate it with inspiration to build. The shift also changes your energy. When you compare, you feel small, powerless, and anxious. When you create, you feel alive, focused, and free. Creation puts you in motion, while comparison keeps you frozen. And momentum, once built, carries you further than you thought possible. Even athletes understand this principle. Kobe Bryant, for example, was famous for studying his opponents, but he never wasted time wishing he had their talents. He studied to learn, then poured everything back into creating his own game, his own style, his own legendary career. He didn't compare, he created. That's why his name is remembered as an icon, not as a copy. Comparison is addictive because it feels harmless at first. You tell yourself you're just observing, but slowly it eats away at your self-belief. Creation, however, is also addictive, but in the best way. The more you create, the more ideas flow, the more confidence grows, and the more impact you make. That cycle builds momentum that comparison could never give you. So the next time you catch yourself scrolling and thinking, "They're ahead of me," pause, remind yourself, nobody else can build exactly what you can. Your story, your perspective, your talents, they are one of a kind. And the world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs the real expression of you. Here's another practice. Once a week, schedule what you could call a creation hour. During that hour, you block out every distraction and focus only on building something new. It doesn't have to be world-changing at first. The key is consistency. A song written, a chapter drafted, a sketch drawn, a plan mapped out. Over months, those small acts of creation compound into something remarkable. And when you look back, you'll realize your growth didn't come from comparing yourself to others, but from outworking your own doubts. Your greatest competition isn't other people, it's who you were yesterday. If you focus on being just 1% more creative, more consistent, more courageous each day, you'll surpass the version of yourself that used to compare, and you'll build a future that feels authentically yours. The truth is, comparison can never bring peace. There will always be someone ahead, someone richer, someone more talented, someone younger, but creation brings fulfillment, because it turns your focus inward, toward what you can control and what you can give. And the secret is this: when you create consistently, people eventually start comparing themselves to you. So replace comparison with creation and watch your life transform. Watch your energy rise, your ideas flourish, and your confidence grow. The moment you stop looking at what others are doing and start pouring yourself into building, you stop competing and start leading. And that's when you realize you were never behind, you were simply being prepared to create something that only you could give the world. Chapter 10. Focus long enough until the world can't ignore you. The world is full of people who start strong but quit before anyone even notices them. Ideas are abandoned halfway, dreams are left unfinished, and talents remain hidden because people give up too soon. Success rarely belongs to the most talented, but almost always to the most consistent. The truth is, if you can focus long enough, work steadily enough, and endure quietly enough, the world will have no choice but to pay attention. Time rewards those who refuse to be moved by impatience, distractions, or the false belief that recognition should come instantly. Think about bamboo. For years, it shows no sign of growth above the soil. Day after day, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, roots are spreading wide and deep, preparing for explosive growth. Then, almost suddenly, it shoots up feet at a time and towers above everything around it. Most people in life quit during the root stage. They believe because nobody sees results yet, nothing is working. But those who keep focusing, keep watering, keep building in silence, reach a point where the breakthrough is undeniable. A real-world example of this is Colonel Sanders. At 65 years old, after countless failures, he had little more than a recipe for fried chicken. He knocked on over 1,000 doors before anyone said yes. He faced rejection after rejection, but his focus never wavered. Eventually, his creation became Kentucky Fried Chicken, one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Imagine if he had given up at the 500th rejection, or even the 900th. The world would never have tasted what he built. His story proves that if you focus long enough, people cannot ignore you forever. One practical way to apply this in your own life is to shift your mindset from urgency to longevity. Most people expect success in weeks or months, but great things often take years of silent effort before the spotlight arrives. Instead of asking, "How quickly will this work?" start asking, "How long am I willing to keep going before it works?" That small shift in perspective prepares you to endure seasons of invisibility without losing heart. Focus also means filtering. Every distraction, every detour, every unnecessary commitment pulls your attention away from the one thing that matters. Winners are not people who do everything. They are people who choose what deserves their energy and give themselves to it completely. Bruce Lee once said, "The successful warrior is the average man, with laser-like focus." That kind of discipline is rare, but it is also what separates those who are remembered from those who fade away. Consider the story of Vincent van Gogh. During his lifetime, he sold almost none of his paintings. People dismissed him, ridiculed his style, and ignored his work. Yet he kept painting. Day after day, brushstroke after brushstroke, he focused on what burned inside him. Today, his paintings are worth millions and inspire people all over the world. He did not live to see the recognition, but his focus outlived him, proving that when you dedicate yourself fully, eventually the world takes notice, even if it comes long after. Here's a practice you can adopt. Pick one pursuit that matters most to you right now. Commit to giving it consistent focus for at least 1 year, without allowing yourself to quit or shift direction. No chasing the next shiny thing. No abandoning it because it's hard. No walking away just because it hasn't gone viral yet. Work on it daily or weekly with deliberate effort, and track your progress privately. At the end of the year, Compare where you started with where you stand. That kind of focus, stretched across months, compounds into mastery. The reason this works so powerfully is because most people lack endurance. They give up early, leaving behind opportunities that could have bloomed with just a little more time. If you become the person who stays, the one who outlasts, the one who keeps showing up even when nobody's clapping, eventually you outdistance the rest. Focus long enough, and the world will have no choice but to notice. Look at Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Journalists mocked him, friends doubted him, yet he kept his focus on solving the problem. He once said, "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." His relentless focus created a breakthrough that changed human civilization. The lesson is clear: hold your focus long enough, and the impossible becomes possible. But focus is not just about persistence, it is also about presence. When you are working on your dream, you cannot afford to give it half-hearted attention. Half focus leads to half results. Learn to eliminate distractions, protect your energy, and give yourself fully to the task at hand. Even an hour of deep, undisturbed focus each day can outperform 10 hours of distracted effort. There is a weight that comes with sustained focus. People around you may not understand it. They may tell you to slow down, to relax, to stop being so intense. But remember this: those who changed history were rarely the ones who lived casually. They were the ones who burned with such intensity that their focus eventually set the world on fire. At some point, focus becomes your identity. You no longer need external validation, because you know what you are building is real. That inner certainty carries you through the long nights, the setbacks, and the seasons when nothing seems to move. Then, one day, the world sees what you've been shaping all along, and they can't look away. So focus long enough until the world can't ignore you. Stay locked in while others are distracted. Keep building while others are giving up. Guard your attention as if it were treasure, because it is. Pour your effort into what matters, and refuse to quit before the story is finished. Recognition may come later than you wish, but if you hold your focus, it will come stronger than you imagine. And when it does, you'll realize it wasn't luck, it wasn't timing, it was the simple power of refusing to let go before the world caught on.